killing 3 Soviet soldiers and taking their arms. He still carried that first Kalashnikov. But that was not why he was known as the Archer. The chief of his little band of mujahideen, the name means freedom fighter, was a perceptive leader who did not look down upon the new arrival who'd spent his youth in classrooms, learning foreign ways. Nor did he hold the young man's initial lack of faith against him. When the teacher joined the group, he'd had only the most cursory knowledge of Islam, and the headman remembered the bitter tears falling like rain from the young man's eyes as their imam had counseled him in Allah's will. Within a month he'd become the most ruthless and most effective man in the band, clearly an expression of God's own plan. And it was he whom the leader had chosen to travel to Pakistan, where he could use his knowledge of science and numbers to learn the use of surface-to-air missiles. The first SAMs with which the quiet, serious man from Amerikistan had equipped the Mujahideen had been the Soviets' own SA-7, known by the Russians as Strela, Arrow. The first man-portable SAM, it was not overly effective unless used with great skill. Only a few had such skill. Among them, the arithmetic teacher was the best, and for his successes with the Russian arrows, the men in the group took to calling him the Archer. He waited with a new missile at the moment, the American one called Stinger. But all of the surface-to-air missiles in this group, indeed throughout the whole area, were merely called arrows now, tools for the Archer. He lay on the knife edge of a ridge 100 meters below the summit of the hill, from which he could survey the length of a glacial valley. Beside him was his spotter, Abdul. The name appropriately meant servant, since the teenager carried 2 additional missiles for his launcher, and, more importantly, had the eyes of a falcon. They were burning eyes. He was an orphan. The Archer's eyes searched the mountainous terrain, especially the ridge lines, with an expression that reflected a millennium of combat. A serious man, the Archer. Though friendly enough, he was rarely seen to smile. He showed no interest in a new bride, not even to join his lonely grief to that of a newly made widow. His life had room for but a single passion. "There," Abdul said quietly, pointing. "I see it." The battle on the valley floor, one of several that day, had been underway for 30 minutes, about the proper time for the Soviet soldiers to get support from their helicopter base 20 kilometers over the next line of mountains. The sun glinted briefly off the Mi-24's glass-covered nose, enough for them to see it 10 miles off, skirting over the ridgeline. Farther overhead and well beyond his reach circled a single Antonov 26 twin-engine transport. It was filled with observation equipment and radios to coordinate the ground and air action. But the Archer's eyes followed only the Mi-24, a hind attack helicopter loaded with rockets and cannon shells that even now was getting information from the circling command aircraft. The Stinger had come as a rude surprise to the Russians, and their air tactics were changing on a daily basis as they struggled to come to terms with the new threat. The valley was deep, but more narrow than the rule. For the pilot to hit the Archer's fellow guerrillas, he had to come straight down the rocky avenue. He'd stay high, at least 1,000 meters over the rocky floor, for fear that a Stinger team might be down there with the riflemen. The Archer watched the helicopter zigzag in flight as the pilot surveyed the land and chose his path. As expected, the pilot approached from leeward, so that the wind would delay the sound of his rotor for the few extra seconds that might be crucial. The radio in the circling transport would be tuned to the frequencies